Marcus Steele's jaw tightens as he stares at his intern across the executive office. A board member noticed something. We have three options: hide better, disclose officially, or... He pauses, pain flickering across his face. End this before it destroys both our careers. Jason's world stops spinning. Before we dive in, comment where in the world you're watching from, and don't forget to click subscribe. Jason had always known something was different about him. Through high school and college, while his friends chased girls and bragged about conquests, Jason had felt nothing. He'd tried dating women, had even kissed a few, but there was never that spark everyone talked about. He'd convinced himself he was just focused on his education, on building his future. That romance would come later when he had time for it. Then he'd walked into Steel Industries for his first day as a summer intern, and Marcus Steele had shaken his hand during the welcome meeting. That touch, firm and warm and confident, had awakened something in Jason that he'd spent 23 years not understanding. For the first time in his life, he felt desire. Raw, terrifying, undeniable desire. And it was for a man. Not just any man, but his CEO. A man so far above his station that even entertaining these thoughts felt like reaching for the sun. Marcus Steele was 42, though he could have passed for mid-30s. He stood 6'4" with deep brown skin that seemed to glow with health and vitality. His head was shaved clean, emphasizing the strong bones of his face, the intensity of his dark eyes. He moved with the confidence of someone who'd earned every ounce of his success through brilliance and determination. When he spoke, people listened. When he walked into a room, everything shifted to accommodate his presence. Jason had spent 3 weeks trying not to stare during company meetings, trying not to notice the way Marcus's hands moved when he explained concepts, trying not to think about what that deep voice would sound like saying his name, trying not to imagine things he had no business imagining. He was an intern. Marcus was the CEO. And Jason was so inexperienced he didn't even know how two men would be together physically. He just knew his body responded to Marcus in ways that kept him awake at night, confused and aching and desperate for something he couldn't name. Now, standing outside Marcus's office at 7 in the evening, Jason wondered if he'd made a terrible mistake. Marcus had sent an email an hour ago asking Jason to bring the quarterly reports to his office before he left for the day. A simple request. Professional. Nothing unusual. Except Jason's hands were shaking and his heart was pounding, and he felt like every fantasy he'd been having for 3 weeks was written across his face in neon letters. He knocked on the heavy wooden door, hearing his own pulse roaring in his ears. "Come in," Marcus's voice called, and Jason felt that sound resonate through his entire body. He pushed open the door and stepped into the executive suite. The office was impressive, all floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, expensive furniture, and subtle displays of success. But Jason barely registered any of it because Marcus was standing by the window, his suit jacket off and his sleeves rolled up, and the sight made Jason's mouth go dry. "Jason," Marcus said, turning to face him, "thank you for bringing those up. I know it's late." "It's no problem, Mr. Steele," Jason managed, proud that his voice came out steady. He crossed to the desk and set down the reports, very aware of how close he'd have to get to Marcus to do so. Marcus moved toward the desk at the same time, and suddenly they were standing much closer than professional distance. Jason could smell him now, something expensive and masculine with hints of cedar and spice. Could see the fine texture of his skin, the slight shadow along his jaw where stubble was beginning to appear. Could feel the heat radiating from his body. "You've been doing excellent work," Marcus said, his eyes on Jason's face. "The analysis you provided on the Davenport account was particularly insightful, beyond what I'd expect from an intern." Jason felt warmth spread through his chest at the praise. "Thank you, sir. I've been trying to learn as much as possible." "You're smart," Marcus continued, and something in his tone made Jason's breath catch. "Quick, you see patterns others miss." He paused, his gaze intensifying. "And you're terrible at hiding what you're thinking." Jason's heart stopped. "I don't know what you mean." Marcus smiled, slow and knowing. "Don't you?" The air between them felt electric, charged with something Jason had no experience navigating. He should step back, should maintain professional distance, should definitely not be standing here staring at Marcus Steele's mouth and wondering what it would feel like against his own. Mr. Steele, Jason started, but Marcus cut him off. Marcus, he said quietly, when we're alone, you can call me Marcus. That wouldn't be appropriate, Jason whispered, even as his body swayed slightly toward Marcus without his permission. No, Marcus agreed. It wouldn't be. Just like it's not appropriate that I've been watching you for 3 weeks, noticing the way you look at me when you think I'm not paying attention, seeing how you respond when I'm near you. He took a step closer, and Jason's back hit the edge of the desk. Just like it's not appropriate that I want you in ways that could destroy both our careers if anyone found out. Jason couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Marcus wanted him. This impossible, brilliant, powerful man wanted him. I've never, he started, then stopped, mortified. Never what? Marcus asked gently, though his eyes were dark with heat. Never been with anyone, Jason forced out, his face burning. Man or woman. I didn't even know I could feel this until I met you. I don't know what I'm doing or what this means or how any of this works. He expected Marcus to laugh, or worse, to pull away disgusted by his inexperience. Instead, Marcus's expression softened into something almost tender. You're attracted to me, he said simply. Yes, Jason breathed. God, yes. I can't stop thinking about you. I lie awake at night wanting things I've never wanted before, imagining your hands on me, your mouth, your body. And I'm terrified because I don't know how to do any of this, and you're so far above me, and this is so wrong, but I can't make myself stop wanting you. The confession hung between them, raw and honest and irrevocable. Jason watched emotions flicker across Marcus's face, desire certainly, but also conflict, concern, and something that looked like restraint being tested to its limits. Jason, Marcus said carefully, I need you to understand something. The power dynamic between us makes this incredibly complicated. I'm your boss. You're an intern. If we cross this line, there's no going back. And if anyone finds out, it's your career that suffers most. I know, Jason said. I've thought about nothing else for 3 weeks. All the reasons this is a terrible idea. But Marcus, I've never felt anything like this before. My whole life I thought something was wrong with me, that I was broken somehow. Then I saw you and everything made sense. I don't want to be sensible. I want to know what this feels like. Marcus closed his eyes briefly, clearly fighting an internal battle. When he opened them again, the heat in his gaze made Jason's knees weak. You have no idea what you're asking for. Then show me, Jason challenged, surprised by his own boldness. Teach me. I trust you, Marcus. I know you'd never hurt me. That's what worries me, Marcus said roughly. You trust me and you're innocent, and you're offering me something precious that you can never get back. What kind of man would I be if I took advantage of that? You're not taking advantage, Jason insisted. I'm asking. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing you. He reached out, his hand trembling slightly as it made contact with Marcus's chest. Through the thin fabric of his shirt, he could feel Marcus's heart hammering just as hard as his own. Please, Marcus, I need you to be my first. I can't imagine it being anyone else. Something in Marcus's control shattered. Jason saw it happen, saw the moment restraint gave way to want. Marcus's hand came up to cup Jason's face, his thumb brushing across Jason's cheekbone with devastating gentleness. If we do this, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, we do it right, not here in my office where anyone could walk in, not rushed or hidden like something shameful. You deserve better than that for your first time. I don't care where, Jason said desperately. I just need you. I care, Marcus said firmly. Come home with me. Let me do this properly. Let me take my time with you and make sure your first experience is everything it should be. Jason's heart was racing so fast he thought it might burst from his chest. Yes, he managed. God, yes. Marcus leaned in slowly, giving Jason time to pull away if he wanted to. But Jason didn't want to pull away. He wanted this more than he'd ever wanted anything. When Marcus's lips finally touched his, Jason made a sound of pure relief. The kiss was gentle, almost chaste, Marcus's mouth moving against his with patience and care. It was nothing like Jason had imagined, and somehow, everything he needed. He could feel Marcus holding back, keeping the kiss soft and easy, despite the hunger Jason could sense thrumming beneath his skin. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Marcus rested his forehead against Jason's. "We need to leave separately," he said practically. "I'll give you my address. Come in an hour. That gives us both time to think about this and be sure." "I'm sure," Jason said immediately. "Then humor me," Marcus replied. "Because once you walk through my door, I'm not going to be able to stop myself. I need to know you've had time to reconsider and still chose to come to me." They separated reluctantly. Marcus wrote his address on a piece of paper and handed it to Jason. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, and the simple contact sent electricity shooting up Jason's arm. "1 hour," Marcus repeated, his eyes intense on Jason's. "If you don't come, I'll understand. We'll never speak of this again, and Monday morning we'll be back to professional distance." "I'll be there," Jason promised. He left Marcus's office on shaky legs, his entire body humming with anticipation and nervousness. He went back to his tiny apartment and showered, changed into clean clothes, and stared at his reflection in the mirror. He looked the same, but he didn't feel the same. He felt like he was standing on the edge of something enormous, something that would fundamentally change who he was. Was he really going to do this? Go to Marcus Steele's home and ask him to be his first? Risk everything for one night of connection with someone so far out of his league? Yes. The answer was immediate and certain. Yes, he was going to do this. Because for the first time in 23 years, his body knew what it wanted, and Jason was done denying himself. He arrived at Marcus's building exactly 1 hour later. It was in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in the city, a sleek high-rise with a doorman who checked his name against a list before allowing him access to the private elevator that went directly to Marcus's penthouse. The elevator ride up felt endless. Jason's palms were sweating. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it. When the doors finally opened directly into Marcus's apartment, he stepped out into a space that was somehow both impressive and welcoming. Marcus was standing by the windows, still in his work clothes, though he'd removed his tie. When he turned and saw Jason, relief flashed across his face. "You came." "I told you I would," Jason said, his voice barely steady. Marcus crossed the space between them in 3 long strides. "Last chance," he said quietly. "Once I touch you, once I show you what your body can feel, there's no going back. Are you absolutely certain this is what you want?" Jason looked up into Marcus's dark eyes, seeing desire tempered with concern, want held in check by genuine care for Jason's well-being. This man could have anyone, could have someone experienced and confident who knew how to please him. But he was here with Jason, making sure Jason was ready, putting Jason's comfort above his own need. "I'm certain," Jason said firmly. "I want this. I want you. Please, Marcus. Show me what I've been missing." Marcus's control finally broke. He pulled Jason against him, and Jason gasped at the sensation of their bodies pressed together from chest to hip. Marcus was so much bigger than him, so solid and warm and strong. Jason had never felt so aware of his own body, of every nerve ending suddenly coming alive. "Tell me if anything doesn't feel good," Marcus murmured against Jason's ear, his breath sending shivers down Jason's spine. "Tell me if you need me to slow down or stop. This is about your pleasure, Jason, about making your first time something beautiful." Then Marcus was kissing him again, and this time there was no gentleness. This kiss was demanding, claiming, teaching Jason's mouth how to move with his. Marcus's tongue swept inside, and Jason moaned at the sensation, at the taste of him. His hands came up to grip Marcus's shoulders, needing something to anchor himself as the world tilted. Marcus walked them backward toward what Jason assumed was the bedroom, never breaking the kiss. When they reached the doorway, Marcus finally pulled back, both of them breathing hard. "Beautiful," Marcus murmured, his eyes roaming over Jason's face. "You're so responsive. Do you have any idea how attractive that is?" Jason felt heat flood his cheeks. "I don't know what I'm doing." "You're doing perfectly," Marcus assured him. "Just feel. Let your body tell you what it wants." He led Jason to the bed, a massive piece of furniture that dominated the room. Jason's nerves came flooding back as he realized what was about to happen. He was really going to do this, going to give himself to Marcus in the most intimate way possible. Marcus seemed to sense his anxiety because he cupped Jason's face gently. "We'll go slow," he promised. "I'm going to take my time learning what makes you feel good. And Jason, I need you to know something. This isn't just physical for me. I don't bring people here. I don't do this casually. You matter to me." The words eased something in Jason's chest. "You matter to me too," he whispered. Marcus smiled and began unbuttoning Jason's shirt with careful fingers. Each button revealed more skin, and Marcus followed the path with his hands, his touch reverent. When the shirt finally fell away, Marcus's eyes darkened with appreciation. "You're beautiful," he said simply. Jason wanted to protest. He was thin, pale, unremarkable compared to Marcus's powerful build, but the way Marcus was looking at him, touching him, made Jason feel beautiful, made him feel desired in a way he'd never experienced. Marcus removed his own shirt, and Jason's breath caught at the sight of him. Broad shoulders, defined chest and abs, skin like warm silk stretched over muscle. He was magnificent, and Jason couldn't believe this man wanted him. "Can I touch you?" Jason asked hesitantly. "God, yes," Marcus groaned. "Touch me anywhere you want." Jason reached out with trembling fingers, placing his palm over Marcus's heart. He could feel it racing, matching his own frantic rhythm. He explored slowly, mapping the planes of Marcus's chest, the ridges of his abs, learning the texture of his skin. Marcus stood still under his touch, letting Jason discover him at his own pace. When Jason's hand drifted lower toward the waistband of Marcus's pants, Marcus caught his wrist gently. "Not yet," he said. "First, I want to make you feel good." He guided Jason backward onto the bed, following him down so their bodies were pressed together. The sensation of skin against skin was overwhelming. Jason had never been touched like this, had never felt this kind of heat and need. Marcus kissed him again, while his hands explored Jason's body, finding sensitive spots Jason didn't know existed. When Marcus's fingers circled his nipple, Jason arched off the bed with a gasp. "You like that," Marcus observed, doing it again and watching Jason's response with satisfaction. "I've never," Jason panted. "No one's ever touched me there." "No one's ever touched you anywhere," Marcus said, and there was possession in his voice that made Jason shiver. "I'm going to be your first everything, going to teach your body pleasure you've never imagined." His mouth moved down Jason's neck, across his chest, finding that sensitive nipple with his tongue. Jason cried out at the sensation, his hands fisting in the sheets. It felt incredible, almost too much, pleasure racing from that point of contact straight to his core. Marcus took his time, lavishing attention on Jason's chest until Jason was writhing beneath him, desperate for more. Only then did Marcus's hand move lower, unfastening Jason's pants with practiced ease. "Wait," Jason gasped, suddenly self-conscious. "I don't know if you'll like." Marcus met his eyes, his expression gentle. "Jason, there's nothing about you I won't like. Your body is perfect exactly as it is. And I promise you, what I'm about to do is going to feel incredible." He removed Jason's pants and underwear, and Jason fought the urge to cover himself. He was completely naked, exposed in a way he'd never been with another person. Marcus's eyes traveled over him with such obvious appreciation that Jason's embarrassment faded. "Perfect," Marcus murmured. "Absolutely perfect." Then his hand wrapped around Jason, and Jason nearly came undone at the sensation. No one had ever touched him there except himself. Feeling Marcus's larger hand, so warm and confident, exploring him, learning the shape and weight of him, was almost more than Jason could process. "Please," Jason whimpered, not even sure what he was asking for. "I've got you," Marcus promised. His hand moved in a slow, steady rhythm, and Jason felt pleasure building unlike anything he'd experienced before. His own inexperienced fumbling in the dark had never felt like this, never built so high or felt so intense. "That's it," Marcus encouraged, watching Jason's face intently. "Let go, let me see you come apart." Jason wanted to hold on, wanted this feeling to last, but his body had other ideas. The pleasure crested suddenly, overwhelming him completely. He cried out Marcus's name as he climaxed, his whole body shaking with the force of it. When he finally came back to himself, Marcus was watching him with such satisfaction and tenderness that Jason felt tears prick his eyes. He started, unable to find words. "That was just the beginning," Marcus said softly. "We haven't even gotten to the main event yet." Jason's eyes widened. There's more. Marcus laughed, warm and genuine. Oh, Jason, there's so much more. But first, you need to recover, and I need to prepare you properly. Prepare me? Jason asked, confused. Marcus's expression grew serious. Jason, when two men are together, there's a physical component that requires preparation. I don't want to hurt you. I'm going to take my time making sure you're ready for me. Is that okay? Jason nodded, trusting Marcus completely, even though he didn't fully understand what was being described. I trust you. Thank you, Marcus said, kissing him softly. That trust is precious, and I won't betray it. He reached for a bottle from the nightstand, and Jason watched as Marcus coated his fingers with something slick. This might feel strange at first, Marcus warned, but I promise it will start to feel good. You need to tell me if anything hurts, okay? Okay, Jason whispered. Marcus positioned himself between Jason's legs, and Jason felt vulnerable in a way that should have been frightening, but somehow wasn't. Not with Marcus looking at him with such care. Marcus's hand moved lower, touching Jason in a place no one had ever touched him, and Jason tensed. Relax, Marcus murmured. Breathe for me. Jason tried to relax as Marcus's finger pressed gently, slowly breaching him. The sensation was strange, uncomfortable, and Jason wasn't sure he liked it. I know, Marcus soothed. Just breathe. Let your body adjust. He worked slowly, patiently, never pushing too far or too fast. Gradually, the discomfort faded and was replaced by something else. Sensation that wasn't quite pleasure, but wasn't pain either. Marcus added a second finger, stretching Jason carefully, and Jason gasped at the fullness. How does that feel? Marcus asked. Strange, Jason admitted, but not bad, just different. It's going to feel better, Marcus promised. Then his fingers moved in a certain way, brushing against something inside Jason that sent pleasure shooting through his entire body like lightning. Jason cried out, his back arching off the bed. What was that? That, Marcus said with satisfaction, is going to make this incredible for you. He continued his careful preparation, finding that spot inside Jason again and again until Jason was gasping and trembling, his body desperate for something more. Marcus, Jason panted, please, I don't know what I need, but please. You need me inside you, Marcus said, his voice rough with restraint. You need to feel me filling you, claiming you, making you mine. Is that what you want, Jason? Yes, Jason gasped. God, yes. Please, Marcus, I'm ready. Marcus removed his remaining clothes, and Jason's eyes widened at the sight of him fully naked. He was beautiful and intimidating in equal measure. Jason felt a flutter of nervousness about whether this would actually work, whether his inexperienced body could accommodate Marcus's size. Marcus seemed to read his expression. I'll be careful, he promised. We'll go as slow as you need. If it's too much, we stop. Your comfort is more important than my pleasure. He positioned himself carefully, and Jason felt pressure as Marcus began to push inside. The stretch was intense, bordering on painful, and Jason tensed. Breathe, Marcus coached, holding completely still. Your body knows what to do. Just relax and let me in. Jason tried to relax, tried to breathe through the burn of being stretched so much. Marcus moved incrementally, giving Jason time to adjust to each new inch. It felt like forever and no time at all before Marcus was fully seated inside him. They stayed like that for a long moment, both breathing hard. Jason felt overwhelmingly full, connected to Marcus in the most intimate way possible. It was intense and strange and somehow exactly right. You okay? Marcus asked, his voice strained. Yes, Jason managed. It doesn't hurt. Just feels like a lot. You're doing so well, Marcus praised, taking me so perfectly. You're incredible, Jason. Slowly, carefully, Marcus began to move. The sensation was overwhelming. Every time Marcus pushed deeper, he hit that spot inside Jason that sent pleasure racing through his nervous system. The discomfort faded, replaced by something that built and built until Jason was moaning with each thrust. That's it, Marcus encouraged, his movements becoming more confident as Jason's body relaxed and accepted him. Feel how good this is. Feel what your body was made for. Jason had never imagined anything could feel like this. Marcus filled him completely, moved inside him with perfect rhythm, made him feel things he didn't have words for. Every nerve ending was alive, every sense heightened. He could hear Marcus's breathing, harsh and desperate, could feel the heat of his skin, the strength in his hands where they gripped Jason's hips, could see the raw need in Marcus's eyes as he watched Jason come apart beneath him. "Marcus," Jason gasped. I can't, it's too much." "Let go," Marcus commanded. "Come for me, Jason. Show me how good I make you feel." Jason shattered. Pleasure crashed over him in waves so intense he saw stars. He felt his body clench around Marcus, heard himself cry out Marcus's name like a prayer. Through the haze of his own climax, he felt Marcus's rhythm falter, heard him groan Jason's name as he found his own release. They collapsed together, both trembling and gasping for breath. Marcus carefully withdrew and pulled Jason against his chest, holding him close while they both came down from the overwhelming intensity of what had just happened. Jason felt tears sliding down his face, but they weren't tears of pain or regret. They were tears of relief, of joy, of finally understanding what all the fuss was about. He'd spent 23 years thinking something was wrong with him. Now he knew. There was nothing wrong. He just needed the right person to awaken him. "Hey," Marcus said softly, wiping away Jason's tears with gentle thumbs. "Talk to me. Are you okay? Did I hurt you?" "No," Jason said, his voice shaky. "You didn't hurt me." That was Marcus. "I never knew it could be like that. I never knew I could feel like that." Marcus smiled, relief evident on his face. "How do you feel now?" "Changed," Jason admitted. "Like I finally understand myself. Like everything makes sense now." He looked up at Marcus, seeing concern and tenderness in his eyes. "Thank you for being my first. For being patient with me. For making it beautiful. Thank you for trusting me," Marcus replied, kissing Jason's forehead. "That was a gift, Jason. Your trust, your innocence. Your willingness to be vulnerable with me. I don't take that lightly." They lay together in comfortable silence for a while, Jason's head on Marcus's chest, listening to his heartbeat slow to normal. Finally, Jason asked the question that had been building in his mind. "What happens now?" Marcus sighed, his arms tightening around Jason. "That's complicated. We work together. The power dynamic is real. If anyone finds out about this, it could damage both our careers, but especially yours." "I don't care about that," Jason said immediately. "You should care," Marcus countered gently. "You have your whole career ahead of you. I won't let you sacrifice that for me." "So this was just one night?" Jason asked, trying to keep the hurt from his voice. "No," Marcus said firmly. "God, no. Jason, I meant what I said earlier. This isn't casual for me. But we need to be smart about this, discreet. We can't let this affect our work relationship or raise suspicions." "So we hide," Jason said flatly. "We're careful," Marcus corrected. "At work, we maintain professional boundaries. But outside of work, we can explore this, see where it goes. If it becomes something serious, we'll figure out how to handle it properly." Jason thought about this. It wasn't ideal. He wanted to be able to acknowledge what they had publicly. But he understood Marcus's concerns, and the alternative, not having Marcus at all, was unthinkable. "Okay," he agreed. "We'll be careful. But Marcus, I need you to know, this isn't just physical for me either. I know I'm inexperienced and probably naive, but I have feelings for you. Real feelings that started before tonight." Marcus cupped Jason's face, his expression serious. "I have feelings for you too. That's what makes this so complicated. If it was just attraction, we could walk away. But Jason, I care about you. I want to protect you, support you, be there for you, and I want to see if this could be something real." "Then we'll figure it out," Jason said, with more confidence than he felt. "Together." They spent the rest of the night talking, sharing stories about their lives, their hopes, their fears. Marcus told Jason about building his company from nothing, about the sacrifices he'd made, about being a gay black man in corporate America, and the additional challenges that brought. Jason talked about his conservative family, about never feeling like he fit in, about his confusion over his sexuality, until the moment he met Marcus. They made love again in the early morning hours, slower this time. Marcus taking even more care to worship Jason's body and show him new ways they could connect. When Jason finally left to go home and change for work, he felt transformed, He wasn't the same person who'd walked through Marcus's door last night. That Jason had been uncertain, inexperienced, afraid. This Jason knew what he wanted and was willing to fight for it. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Jason dressed carefully in his best suit, wanting to look professional despite his lack of sleep and the pleasant ache in his body that reminded him of everything that had happened. He arrived at the office at his usual time and took the elevator up to his floor, trying to calm his racing heart. Throughout the morning, he caught glimpses of Marcus in meetings, always surrounded by executives and assistants. Their eyes met once across the conference room, and Jason saw heat flicker in Marcus's gaze before he looked away, maintaining perfect professional distance. It was torture being so close to him and not being able to touch him, to talk to him, to acknowledge what they'd shared. At lunch, Jason's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Miss you already. Thinking about you spread out in my bed. Counting the hours until I can touch you again. M." Jason's heart soared. He saved the number under a neutral name and replied carefully. "Tonight?" The response was immediate. "My place. 8 p.m. I'll have dinner waiting." The rest of the day passed in a blur. Jason went through the motions of his work, contributing to meetings and reviewing reports, but his mind was elsewhere. At 5 hours, he left with the other employees, went home, showered, changed, and counted down the minutes until he could see Marcus again. When he arrived at Marcus's building at exactly 8 U, Marcus met him at the door with a kiss that made Jason's knees weak. "I've been thinking about doing that all day," Marcus murmured against Jason's lips. "Me too," Jason admitted. They had dinner together, easy conversation flowing as naturally as it had the night before. Afterward, Marcus pulled Jason onto the couch and they talked about their days, carefully avoiding work topics. It felt domestic, comfortable, like something that could become a routine. "Stay tonight," Marcus said as it got late. "I want to wake up with you." Jason hesitated. "I don't have clothes for tomorrow." "I'll drive you home early to change," Marcus offered. "Please, Jason, I'm not ready to let you go yet." Jason couldn't resist. He stayed, and they made love with growing confidence as Jason learned what pleased Marcus, what made him lose control. Afterward, they fell asleep, tangled together, and Jason thought that despite all the complications, he'd never been happier. The weeks that followed established a pattern. At work, they were perfectly professional. Jason, the dedicated intern, Marcus, the demanding but fair CEO. No one suspected anything, but after hours, they were inseparable. Jason spent nearly every night at Marcus's penthouse. They cooked together, watched movies, talked for hours, and explored each other's bodies with growing skill and passion. Jason was falling in love. He knew it was fast, knew it was probably reckless given the circumstances, but he couldn't help it. Marcus was everything he'd never known he wanted. Strong but gentle, demanding but patient, successful but humble. He made Jason feel valued, not just physically, but emotionally and intellectually. He listened to Jason's ideas, challenged his thinking, supported his ambitions. 1 month in, they had their first real complication. Jason's intern program was coming to an end, and decisions were being made about which interns would receive job offers. Jason desperately wanted to stay at Steel Industries, but he was terrified that his relationship with Marcus would influence the decision one way or another. "I need to recuse myself from the decision," Marcus said when Jason brought it up. "I'll have HR and your direct supervisor make the call based purely on your performance." "What if they don't offer me a position?" Jason asked. Marcus pulled him close. "Then we'll figure it out. You're talented, Jason. Any company would be lucky to have you, but I won't compromise your career by making decisions based on our personal relationship." The waiting was agony. Jason threw himself into his work, determined to prove his worth. When the offer finally came, it was from Jason's direct supervisor with no involvement from Marcus. Jason had earned it on his own merit, and the relief was overwhelming. "I got the job," he told Marcus that evening, unable to contain his excitement. Marcus's smile was brilliant. "I knew you would. You're too talented for them to let you go." "So now what?" Jason asked. "I'll be a full employee. The power dynamic changes." "We'll still need to be careful," Marcus cautioned. "I'm still your ultimate boss, but it's less problematic than intern and CEO." He cupped Jason's face. "Jason, I want this to work. I want us to work. I know it's only been a month, but you've become important to me. Essential even. "I love you," Jason blurted out, then froze, terrified he'd said too much too soon. But Marcus just smiled, warm and genuine. "I love you too. I have for weeks. I was just waiting for the right moment to tell you." They celebrated that night with passion that left them both exhausted and satisfied. As Jason drifted off to sleep in Marcus's arms, he thought about how much his life had changed in just 1 month. He'd gone from confused and inexperienced to confident and loved. He'd discovered who he was and what he wanted, and he'd found someone who saw all of him and loved him anyway. 3 months into their relationship, Jason woke up in Marcus's bed to sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows and the comfortable weight of Marcus's arm draped across his waist. These mornings had become his favorite part of the day. The quiet intimacy of waking together, the sleepy kisses, the way Marcus always pulled him closer even in his sleep, as if afraid Jason might disappear. "Good morning," Marcus murmured against the back of Jason's neck, his voice rough with sleep. "Good morning," Jason replied, turning in Marcus's arms to face him. Even first thing in the morning, disheveled and unguarded, Marcus was the most beautiful man Jason had ever seen. They kissed slowly, leisurely, no urgency because they had time. It was Saturday, their favorite day, because they could spend it entirely together without the careful distance they maintained at work. Marcus's hands began to wander, mapping Jason's body with the confidence of someone who'd learned every inch, every sensitive spot, every place that made Jason gasp. "We should get up," Jason said half-heartedly, even as he arched into Marcus's touch. "We should," Marcus agreed, but his mouth was traveling down Jason's throat, and his hands were doing things that made coherent thought impossible. They made love in the golden morning light, moving together with the practiced ease of lovers who knew each other's bodies intimately. Jason was no longer the inexperienced virgin who'd been terrified and overwhelmed. He knew how to touch Marcus now, how to make him moan, how to drive him wild. But Marcus still took charge in bed, and Jason loved surrendering to him, loved being taken care of, loved the way Marcus made him feel cherished and desired and completely safe. Afterward, they showered together, which inevitably led to more touching, more kissing, more pleasure. By the time they finally made it to the kitchen for breakfast, it was nearly noon. "We're terrible at getting out of bed on weekends," Jason observed, laughing as he watched Marcus attempt to make pancakes. "Can you blame me?" Marcus replied, pulling Jason close for another kiss. "You're addictive. I can't keep my hands off you." Jason's phone buzzed on the counter, interrupting the moment. He glanced at the screen and froze. "It's my mom." Marcus immediately stepped back, giving Jason space. They'd talked about Jason's family before, his conservative parents, who still thought he was straight, who didn't know about Marcus, who had expectations for Jason's life that didn't include being in a relationship with another man, let alone his CEO. "You should answer," Marcus said gently. Jason picked up the phone with trembling hands. "Hi, Mom." "Jason, honey, I've been trying to reach you all week." His mother's voice was cheerful, oblivious. "Your father and I want to come visit next month. We'd love to see where you're working and meet some of your colleagues." Jason's stomach dropped. "Next month? That's pretty soon." "Well, we haven't seen you since you graduated. We want to make sure our son is doing well in the big city." There was a pause. "And Jason, your father's been asking about whether you're seeing anyone. Any nice young ladies at your company?" Jason closed his eyes, feeling Marcus's supportive presence behind him. "Mom, I'm not really dating anyone right now. I've been focused on work." It wasn't exactly a lie, but it felt like one. He was dating someone. He was in love with someone. He just couldn't tell his parents about it. "Well, that's a shame, but you're young, plenty of time to settle down." His mother chatted for a few more minutes about the visit logistics before finally hanging up. Jason set down his phone and leaned back against the counter, suddenly exhausted. Marcus wrapped his arms around him from behind, offering silent comfort. "I'm sorry," Jason said quietly. "I hate lying to them." "You're not lying," Marcus corrected gently. "You're protecting yourself until you're ready to have that conversation. There's a difference." "But when will I be ready?" Jason asked, turning in Marcus's arms. "We've been together for 3 months. I love you. I want to be able to tell people about you, but I'm terrified of how my parents will react. Marcus cupped Jason's face tenderly. There's no timeline for coming out, Jason. You do it when you're ready, on your terms. I'm not going anywhere. I can wait as long as you need. What if they react badly? Jason whispered. What if they refuse to accept us? Then that's their loss, Marcus said firmly. But Jason, you can't live your life for other people's expectations. I know it's scary. I've been there. My own family struggled when I came out, but eventually they came around because they loved me and they saw how happy I was. What if mine don't come around? Marcus pulled him close. Then you'll have me. You'll have the family we choose together. And eventually, you'll build a life so full of love and happiness that their absence, while it will hurt, won't define you. Jason held on to Marcus, drawing strength from his steady presence. This was the man he loved, strong, patient, understanding. The man who'd awakened him in every way possible. The man he wanted to build a future with. His parents deserved to know about him. But the fear was still there, cold and heavy in his chest. The weekend continued with them pushing aside the heavy conversation to enjoy each other's company. They cooked together, watched movies curled up on the couch, made love again in the afternoon, with the kind of lazy pleasure that came from having nowhere to be, and nothing to do but be together. But the shadow of Jason's coming out dilemma lingered. He knew he couldn't keep hiding forever. Eventually, he'd have to make a choice between living authentically and maintaining his parents' approval. And he was terrified that he couldn't have both. Monday morning arrived, and they fell back into their careful work routine. Jason got dressed in his apartment, took his own car to the office, arrived separately from Marcus. At work, they were consummate professionals. Jason attended meetings, worked on projects, collaborated with colleagues. Marcus ran the company with his usual brilliant efficiency. Their eyes met occasionally across conference rooms, quick glances that held entire conversations. But to everyone else, they were just CEO and employee. Jason had gotten good at compartmentalizing. At work, Marcus was Mr. Steele, his boss, the man he respected and admired professionally. But the second they were alone, he became Marcus, the man Jason loved, the man who made him laugh and feel safe and burn with desire. They'd developed a system for their after-work meetings. Marcus would text from a burner phone. Jason would arrive at his building using the private entrance, and they'd spend their evenings together before Jason left early in the morning. It was exhausting maintaining the secrecy, but it also felt necessary. Neither of them was ready to face the professional complications that would come from their relationship becoming public knowledge. 2 weeks after his mother's call, Jason was working late in his office when his desk phone rang. It was Marcus's assistant. "Mr. Steele would like to see you in his office," she said professionally. Jason's heart skipped. They were always so careful about not having private meetings at work. This had to be important. He gathered his notes and headed up to the executive floor, trying to calm his racing pulse. Marcus's assistant waved him through, and Jason entered the massive corner office. Marcus was standing by the windows, his back to the door, tension visible in his shoulders. "Close the door," Marcus said without turning around. Jason did, his concern growing. "What's wrong?" Marcus turned to face him, and Jason saw worry in his eyes. "We may have a problem. One of the board members made a comment today about how I seem to show favoritism toward you in meetings. Asked if there was anything I wanted to disclose." Jason felt the blood drain from his face. "Do they know?" "I don't think so," Marcus said carefully, "but someone's noticed something. We've been so careful, but maybe not careful enough." "What do we do?" Jason asked, panic rising in his chest. Marcus crossed to him, wanting to touch him but maintaining distance in case someone walked in. "We have options. We can continue being even more careful. We can disclose the relationship officially, which would require you to transfer to a different department so I'm not your direct supervisor, or..." He hesitated. "Or what?" Jason prompted. "Or we could end it," Marcus said quietly, pain evident in his voice. "Before it becomes a bigger issue." "No," Jason said immediately, fiercely. "Absolutely not. I'm not giving you up." "Then we need to make a decision," Marcus said, "because this limbo we're in, it's not sustainable. Eventually, someone's going to figure it out, and when they do, we need to be prepared." Jason's mind raced. He thought about his parents' upcoming visit, about the fear he'd been carrying about coming out. He thought about Marcus and everything they'd built together. He thought about who he was now compared to who he'd been 3 months ago, that Jason had been hiding from himself, terrified of his own desires. This Jason knew what he wanted and who he loved. "Let's disclose it," Jason heard himself say. "Officially, I'll transfer departments. We'll do everything by the book. I'm done hiding." Marcus's eyes widened. "Jason, are you sure? This is your career. Once it's out there, you can't take it back." "I'm sure," Jason said with growing conviction. "I love you, Marcus. I want a future with you, and that future can't be built on secrecy and fear. If people have a problem with us being together, that's their issue, not ours." A smile spread across Marcus's face, warm and proud. "You're brave. You know that?" "I learned from the best," Jason replied. They worked out the logistics over the next few days. Marcus would disclose the relationship to HR and the board. Jason would transfer to the marketing department, where he'd been wanting to work anyway, under a different supervisor. They'd sign all the necessary paperwork acknowledging the relationship and confirming there was no conflict of interest. The board meeting where Marcus made the disclosure was tense. Jason wasn't present, but Marcus told him afterward that there had been questions, concerns, even some thinly veiled homophobia from one older board member. But ultimately, they'd accepted it. Marcus had too much value to the company for them to make it an issue, and Jason's work spoke for itself. The gossip started immediately. Jason heard whispers in the hallway, felt eyes on him in meetings. Some colleagues were supportive, congratulating him quietly. Others were judgmental, their disapproval clear in their cold shoulders and cutting remarks. Jason held his head high, refusing to be ashamed of loving Marcus. His transfer to marketing went through quickly. His new supervisor, a brilliant woman named Rachel Torres, welcomed him warmly. "I don't care who you're dating," she said bluntly during their first meeting. "I care whether you can do the work. Can you?" "Yes," Jason said firmly. "Absolutely." "Good. Then we'll get along fine." With the work situation handled, Jason knew he couldn't put off his parents any longer. They were arriving in 2 weeks, and they deserved to know the truth before they showed up and heard it from someone else. He called them one Sunday evening, Marcus sitting beside him for moral support. "Mom, Dad," Jason began, his voice shaking slightly. "I need to tell you something." "What is it, son?" His father's gruff voice came through the speaker. "I'm seeing someone. We've been together for about 4 months now. It's serious, and I need you to know that the person I'm dating is a man." Silence. Long, heavy silence that made Jason's heart pound painfully. Finally, his mother spoke. "Jason, is this some kind of joke?" "No, Mom, I'm gay. I've probably always been gay. I just didn't understand it until recently, and I'm in love with someone." "Who?" his father demanded. "Who is this man?" Jason took a deep breath. "His name is Marcus Steele. He's the CEO of the company I work for." "Your boss?" His mother's voice was shrill. "Jason, this is inappropriate. This is wrong. You're throwing away your future for some—" "Don't," Jason interrupted, his voice stronger now. "Don't say something you'll regret. I love him, and he loves me. This isn't a phase or a mistake. This is who I am." "We didn't raise you to be like this," his father said coldly. Those words hit like a physical blow. Jason felt tears prick his eyes, but Marcus squeezed his hand, anchoring him. "You raised me to be honest," Jason said. "You raised me to be brave. That's what I'm doing. I'm being honest about who I am and brave enough to live authentically. I'm sorry if this disappoints you, but I won't apologize for being happy." "We need time," his mother said, her voice breaking. "We need time to process this." "Take all the time you need," Jason said quietly. "But Mom, Dad, I hope you know that I'm still your son. I'm still the same person I've always been. The only difference is now you know the truth." His father hung up without another word. Jason set down the phone and collapsed against Marcus, finally letting the tears fall. "I'm so sorry," Marcus murmured, holding him close. "I'm so sorry they reacted that way." "I knew they might," Jason said through his tears. "But God, it still hurts." "I know, baby. I know." They spent that evening tangled together on the couch, Marcus offering comfort while Jason processed the pain of his parents' rejection. Eventually, Jason's tears stopped, replaced by a strange sense of peace. "I don't regret it," he said suddenly. "Telling them. Even though they reacted badly, I don't regret it, because I'm done living in fear. I'm done hiding who I am." Marcus kissed his forehead tenderly. "I'm proud of you. That took incredible courage." "I had you. Jason said simply. That made it possible. The next few weeks were difficult. Jason's parents didn't call. His mother sent a brief text saying they'd canceled their visit and needed more time. Jason threw himself into his new position in marketing, finding that he actually loved the creative challenges it presented. His colleagues in the new department were welcoming, and Rachel turned out to be an excellent mentor. At night, he went home to Marcus. They'd officially moved in together after the relationship disclosure, and Jason loved coming home to their shared space. Marcus had made room for Jason's things without being asked, and slowly the penthouse was becoming theirs rather than just his. They settled into a comfortable domestic rhythm. Marcus cooked breakfast while Jason got ready for work. They commuted separately but texted throughout the day. In the evenings, they'd have dinner together, talk about their days, and fall into bed wrapped around each other. Weekends were for sleeping in, making love at leisurely pace, and exploring the city together now that they didn't have to hide. 5 months into their relationship, Jason came home to find Marcus in the kitchen, unusually nervous. "What's wrong?" Jason asked immediately. "Nothing's wrong," Marcus said. "I just wanted to talk to you about something." Jason's heart rate picked up. "Okay." Marcus took Jason's hands in his. "I know we've only been together for 5 months. I know by some standards that's not very long. But Jason, you've transformed my life. Before you, I was successful but lonely. I had everything money could buy and nothing that actually mattered. Then you walked into my life with your innocence and your courage and your incredible heart, and everything changed." "Marcus," Jason whispered, not sure where this was going but feeling emotion well up in his chest. "I'm not asking you to marry me," Marcus continued, smiling at Jason's surprised expression. "Not yet anyway, but I'm asking if you'll build a life with me, a real life. I want to buy a house together. I want to travel with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. I want to introduce you as my partner without hesitation. I want everything with you, Jason. If you want that too." Jason felt tears streaming down his face. "Yes," he managed. "God, yes. I want all of that." They kissed, deep and passionate, pouring 5 months of love and trust and devotion into that connection. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. "I love you," Marcus said. "I love everything about you. Your brilliant mind, your kind heart, the way you laugh at my terrible jokes, the way you look at me like I hung the moon. I love who you were when we met and who you've become. I love us." "I love us too," Jason said. "And Marcus, I know I still have things to figure out. My relationship with my parents, my own identity, my career. But I want to figure it all out with you by my side." That night, they made love with new intensity, new meaning. This wasn't just physical anymore. Hadn't been for months. This was a commitment, a promise, a future being built one touch at a time. 2 weeks later, Jason's phone rang with his mother's number. He stared at it for a long moment before answering. "Hello? Jason?" His mother's voice was tentative. "Do you have a few minutes to talk?" "Yes," Jason said carefully. "Your father and I have been doing a lot of thinking and talking, and we spoke with our pastor, and he helped us see some things differently." She paused. "Jason, we were wrong. The way we reacted was wrong. You're our son, and we love you no matter what. If you're happy with this Marcus person, then we want to meet him." Jason felt his throat close with emotion. "Really? Really? We may need time to fully understand everything, but we want to try. For you." "Thank you," Jason whispered. "Thank you so much." They talked for an hour, Jason answering his parents' hesitant questions about his relationship, about when he'd known, about how Marcus treated him. By the end of the call, his mother was crying, apologizing repeatedly for her initial reaction. "We love you," she said. "We just want you to be happy." "I am happy," Jason assured her. "Happier than I've ever been." When he told Marcus later, Marcus pulled him into a tight embrace. "I'm so glad they came around." "Me too," Jason said. "It means everything." They scheduled a dinner for the following month when Jason's parents would visit. Jason was nervous, but Marcus was calm and confident, promising to charm Jason's parents the way he'd charmed Jason. The dinner turned out better than Jason had dared hope. His parents arrived tense and uncertain, but Marcus welcomed them warmly, asking thoughtful questions and sharing stories that made them laugh. By the end of the evening, Jason's mother was hugging Marcus goodbye, and his father shook Marcus's hand with genuine respect. "He's good for you," his father told Jason quietly, while Marcus and Jason's mother were chatting. "I can see how happy you are. That's all we ever wanted for you." Jason hugged his father, feeling years of tension finally release. "Thank you, Dad." Life settled into a beautiful new normal. Jason continued to excel in his marketing role, earning praise from Rachel and eventually a promotion. Marcus remained the brilliant, driven CEO who'd built an empire, but now he had someone to share his victories with, someone who celebrated his successes and supported him through challenges. They bought a house together after 8 months, a beautiful brownstone with enough space for both their needs. Jason loved making it their home, picking out furniture together, hanging artwork that reflected both their tastes, creating a space that was undeniably theirs. At work, the initial gossip died down as people realized Jason and Marcus's relationship didn't affect their professionalism. Jason worked hard, earned his successes on merit, and never asked Marcus for special treatment. Marcus continued to be fair and demanding with all his employees, including Jason when their work overlapped. 1 year after they'd first gotten together, Marcus took Jason back to his office after hours, where it had all begun. "I've been thinking about that first night," Marcus said, pulling Jason close. "When you stood in this office and trusted me with something precious, when you asked me to be your first." "Best decision I ever made," Jason said, smiling up at him. "Mine too," Marcus agreed. Then he dropped to one knee and Jason's breath caught. "Jason Mitchell, you walked into my life a year ago and turned it upside down in the best possible way. You taught me that success means nothing without love. You showed me that vulnerability is strength. You gave me a future worth building." He pulled out a ring box, opening it to reveal a simple but elegant band. "Will you marry me? Will you let me be your last, the way I was your first?" Jason was crying, nodding, unable to form words. Finally, he managed, "Yes, God, yes, Marcus, yes." Marcus slipped the ring on Jason's finger and stood, pulling Jason into a kiss that was everything. Love and promise and joy and relief all mixed together. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling through tears. "I love you," Jason said. "I love you so much." "I love you too," Marcus replied, "forever." They made love that night in Marcus's office, the same place where Jason had first confessed his inexperience and his desire. But this time, there was no nervousness, no uncertainty, just two people who knew each other completely, who loved each other deeply, celebrating the commitment they were making. The wedding was 6 months later, a beautiful ceremony that blended both their worlds. Jason's parents were there, his mother crying happy tears as she watched her son marry the man he loved. Marcus's family welcomed Jason warmly, treating him like he'd always been part of their family. Colleagues from steel industries attended, professional boundaries blurred for the day as they celebrated their CEO and their co-worker finding happiness together. Rachel gave a toast at the reception. "I've had the privilege of working with Jason for over a year now. When he first transferred to my department, I told him I didn't care who he was dating as long as he could do the work. Well, let me tell you, Jason can do the work, but more than that, he showed me that sometimes the best things in life come from taking risks, from being brave enough to reach for what you want even when it seems impossible. Jason and Marcus, you two took that risk. You faced judgment and complications and uncertainty. And look what you built, a love that inspired all of us." To Jason and Marcus, the crowd raised their glasses and Jason felt Marcus's hand squeeze his under the table. They'd come so far from that first night when Jason had been terrified and inexperienced. Now he was confident, loved, building a life with his husband. During their first dance, Marcus pulled Jason close and whispered, "Remember when you told me you'd never felt anything until you met me?" "I remember everything about that night," Jason replied. "I want you to know something," Marcus continued. "I'd never felt this until I met you either. I'd been with other men before, but I'd never been in love. You didn't just awaken your own desires, you awakened mine too. You made me believe in love, in partnership, in the possibility of real happiness." Jason kissed him, not caring that they were in front of 100 guests. We awakened each other. They honeymooned in Europe, 2 weeks of exploring new cities and making love in beautiful hotels, and simply being Jason and Marcus without any professional complications. When they returned, they settled into married life with the same ease they'd found in dating. 2 years after they'd first met, Jason was sitting in their home office working on a presentation when Marcus came in with an odd expression. "What's wrong?" Jason asked immediately. "Nothing's wrong," Marcus said. "But I got an interesting call today. Remember that mentorship program for LGBTQ youth I've been working on?" "Of course," Jason said. He'd been heavily involved in developing the program himself. "They want us to speak at their launch event, share our story, how we met, how we navigated the complications, what advice we'd give young people who are struggling with their identity." Jason thought about the young man he'd been 2 years ago, confused, scared, convinced something was wrong with him. How different would his journey have been if he'd had role models, if he'd known that what he was feeling was normal and beautiful. "Let's do it," Jason said firmly. The event was a month later. Standing on that stage next to Marcus, looking out at dozens of young faces hungry for hope and guidance, Jason felt purpose wash over him. 2 years ago, he began, I was 23 years old, and I'd never been attracted to anyone. I thought I was broken. Then I met Marcus, and everything changed. I'm not going to lie and say it was easy. Coming out was terrifying. Navigating a relationship with such a complicated power dynamic was challenging. Facing judgment from people I cared about was painful, but it was worth it. Every difficult moment was worth it because I found authenticity. I found love. I found myself. Marcus took over. And as the older partner, as the one with more experience, I want you to know that the person who awakens something in you isn't always who you'd expect. Jason was my intern. He was, inexperienced. He was young. Every logical reason said I should keep my distance, but sometimes logic isn't enough. Sometimes you meet someone who changes everything, and you have to be brave enough to reach for that chance at real happiness. They answered questions afterward, honest and open about their journey. Several young people came up to them in tears, thanking them for their vulnerability, for showing that happy endings were possible. On the drive home, Jason took Marcus's hand. That felt important. It was important, Marcus agreed. You're helping people who are exactly where you were 2 years ago, showing them that their feelings are valid, that they deserve love, that there's nothing wrong with them. We're helping them, Jason corrected, together. That night, making love in their bed, in their house, in the life they'd built together, Jason marveled at how much had changed. He'd gone from inexperienced and confused to confident and certain, from hiding who he was to living openly and proudly, from alone to deeply, completely loved. Marcus seemed to sense his thoughts because he paused, looking down at Jason with such tenderness, it made Jason's chest ache. "What are you thinking about?" "About how you saved me," Jason admitted. "No," Marcus said firmly. "You saved yourself. You were brave enough to acknowledge what you wanted. Brave enough to ask for it. Brave enough to build a life that honored who you really are. I just got to be there for the journey." "We saved each other," Jason said, pulling Marcus down for a kiss. 3 years into their marriage, Jason got a promotion to Senior Marketing Director. 4 years in, Marcus made him VP of Marketing despite their relationship, because Jason had earned it and everyone knew it. 5 years in, they were still finishing each other's sentences, still unable to keep their hands off each other, still discovering new ways to love and challenge and support each other. They became mentors in the LGBTQ community, speaking regularly about their experience. They donated generously to organizations supporting queer youth. They used their visibility and success to show that love comes in many forms, and all of them are valid and beautiful. On their 5th anniversary, lying in bed after making love, Marcus traced lazy patterns on Jason's skin. "Do you ever regret it? That first night when you came to my office and asked me to be your first?" Jason laughed. "Never, not for a single second. That night changed my life. You changed my life." "You changed mine too," Marcus said softly. "I was successful before you, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't whole. You made me whole." "We made each other whole," Jason corrected, a phrase that had become their mantra over the years. Jason thought about everything that had led to this moment. His inexperience that had felt like a burden, but turned out to be a gift. Marcus's patience and care that had made Jason's first time beautiful, rather than traumatic. The complications they'd navigated together, the fear they'd faced and overcome, the love they'd built brick by brick into something unshakable. I'm grateful, Jason said quietly, for every moment, even the hard ones, because they all led here, to us, to this life we've created. Marcus kissed him, slow and deep, a kiss that held 5 years of devotion and the promise of 50 more. I'm grateful too, every single day. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, two people who'd found in each other everything they'd been missing. Jason, who'd discovered his identity through love. Marcus, who'd discovered that true success wasn't measured in quarterly reports, but in the depth of connection with another person. Years later, when younger employees would ask them for advice, they'd tell the same story. About an inexperienced intern and a CEO who took a chance on something that seemed impossible. About trust and vulnerability, and the courage to reach for what you want, even when it terrifies you. About building love despite complications, despite judgment, despite all the logical reasons to play it safe. The thing about taking risks, Jason would say, is that they're only worth it when you're reaching for something real. I took a risk on Marcus, on myself, on love, and it gave me everything. The thing about power, Marcus would add, is knowing when to surrender it. I had all the power in our dynamic, but the moment I chose to see Jason as a partner rather than a subordinate, as a person worthy of love rather than just an employee, everything changed. True strength isn't about dominance. It's about recognizing when someone's trust is more valuable than your control. And late at night, in the privacy of their home, they'd still reach for each other with the same hunger and tenderness as that first night. Because some things never changed. The way Jason still trembled under Marcus's touch. The way Marcus still looked at Jason like he was the most precious thing in the world. The way they still whispered, "I love you," in the darkness, meaning it more with each passing year. Jason had been a virgin when they met, uncertain of his own desires, afraid of his own identity. Marcus had been lonely despite his success, searching for connection without knowing where to find it. Together, they discovered that love didn't follow rules or respect boundaries. It simply existed, powerful and transforming, for those brave enough to reach for it. And every night, falling asleep in Marcus's arms, Jason was grateful he'd been that brave. Grateful he'd walked into Marcus's office and asked for what he wanted. Grateful he'd trusted his instincts and his heart even when his mind said it was impossible. Because impossible things happened every day. And the most impossible thing of all, a love that healed, transformed, and endured, was exactly what they'd built together. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that courage is rewarded and authenticity is freedom, leave a like and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear that their journey, no matter how uncertain, can lead to extraordinary love. Because sometimes the most beautiful destinations are reached by taking the scariest first steps. And sometimes the person who saves you is the one you had the courage to reach for, even when everything said you shouldn't. Jason and Marcus's story wasn't just about first times or forbidden attraction. It was about two people who saw each other truly, who built trust in the face of complications, who chose love over fear again and again until choosing love became as natural as breathing. That's the real story, not the heat or the scandal or the power dynamics, but the simple, profound truth that when you find someone who sees all of you and loves you anyway, who makes you brave enough to be authentic, who transforms your life just by being in it, you hold on, you fight for it. You build something so beautiful that looking back, you can't imagine any other life. And late at night, when Marcus would pull Jason close and whisper, "Thank you for trusting me with your first time," Jason would always reply, "Thank you for making every time," after just as meaningful. Because that was the real gift. Not just the awakening of desire, but the discovery that love could be sustained, deepened, made richer with every passing day. That the man who'd been gentle with his innocence would be passionate with his experience. That vulnerability could be safe and trust could be rewarded, and taking impossible risks could lead to the most certain happiness. They lived their truth openly, loved each other fiercely, and inspired countless others to be brave enough to do the same. And every day, in small ways and large, they chose each other again. Because that's what real love was. Not just the spark of initial attraction, but the daily decision to keep building, keep growing, keep reaching for each other across whatever distance the world tried to put between them. Jason had asked Marcus to be his first. Marcus had given him so much more, a lifetime of firsts, a partnership built on trust, and a love that proved impossible things were only impossible until someone was brave enough to make them real.